Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
Child sex abusers are continuing to prey on youngsters in Rotherham more than 12 years after the grooming gang scandal was first exposed, locals have claimed. Although another 7 men were this week found guilty of a horrific catalogue of multiple rapes and sexual assaults, many more trials are in the pipeline, casting a continued shadow over the area. And local people, including victims, say they believe criminals are still grooming and abusing the young, this time involving gangs from a swathe of ethnicities rather than just groups of mainly Pakistani Muslim men. The latest prosecution follows a 5-year investigation by officers from the National Crime Agency's Operation Stovewood, the UK's biggest investigation into child abuse. A spokesman told the Daily Mail, "Our caseload so far involves over 200 arrests out of 300 suspects, and 1,150 victims. So far, there have been 33 convictions after 15 trials, but there are further trials due to start and we have more than 50 live investigations." Stovewood was set up in the wake of the J report, which sent a shockwave across the nation in 2014 when it found that at least 1,400 girls were abused, trafficked, and groomed by gangs of men of mainly Pakistani heritage in the town between 1997 and 2013. The report by Professor Alexis J., now chairing the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, prompted a swathe of resignations and further inquiries from public bodies after it emerged how police, social workers, and other agencies had done little to tackle the issue. But while Stovewood has been welcomed, there is concern about it only investigating historic grooming. Locals say they have received no information about when any prosecutions for more recent allegations of grooming, investigated by South Yorkshire Police, will reach the courts. And Rotherham abuse survivor and campaigner Sammy Woodhouse, who was just 14 when she was raped and became pregnant, said progress on changes to help victims has stalled. She said, "We're never going to be able to stop exploitation, but that doesn't mean the authorities can't be determined to stop it. Mountains should be moved in terms of changing the way things operate, but this isn't happening. People are still more bothered about protecting their reputations, and there is still no legal definition of a victim of child exploitation, which would help enable cases to be recognized. The sentencings need to be higher. Rape carries a maximum term of life. Why is it not being given out more often? Children who are being exploited by grooming gangs are still being criminalized rather than recognized as victims, and there's not one support service in this country for a child born of sexual violence. The legacy of what Ms. Woodhouse, now 38, went through more than 2 decades ago has continued to affect her life. Her rapist, Arshid Hussain, who was one of 3 brothers who groomed and abused over 50 girls, was jailed for 35 years in 2016. But the following year, it emerged Rotherham Council had contacted Hussain about the boy Ms. Woodhouse had given birth to after being raped. The authority promised to keep him informed about future proceedings, after he was listed as a respondent in a family court case. In response, Ms. Woodhouse set up a petition backed by 20,000 people and Rotherham MP Sarah Champion for a change in the law to prevent men with a child conceived by rape from access or involvement with them. Speaking at the time, she said, "We're constantly being re-victimized, and as a rape victim I'm constantly told, well actually, he's got his human rights. What about my human rights? What about other people's human rights and our children and our right to constantly have to keep our children safe?" And she is still battling to have a historic criminal conviction for an assault after she got into a fight while being groomed erased from her record. She also said there isn't sufficient focus by the authorities on criminal gangs grooming of boys who are lured into joining their activities and becoming abusers themselves. Lack of resources is one issue, she said. There's not enough police officers to deal with the crime that's going on. You report an incident and can't get a call back. The men, found guilty last Wednesday after a 9-week trial at Sheffield Crown Court and who will be sentenced in September, are Muhammad Amar, 42, of Elizabeth Way, R.